McQuestion for over 28 years, talking about things that matter with people who care. Production of McQuestion is made possible in part by individual viewers, supporters of the Foundation for Responsible Television, the Hatton W. Sumner's Foundation, helping to educate the public about the fundamental principles of their democracy and thus be in a position to help formulate public policy. Moss Adams LLP, certified public accountants and consultants, providing industry-smart tax, assurance, and consulting solutions to help businesses and their owners succeed since 1913. The University of Texas at Dallas, creating the future.
Charles Murray and other so-called controversial experts who speak on college campuses have been shouted down or even physically attacked by those who disagree with their opinions. Do you find such intimidation frightening, especially on college campuses where allegedly all ideas are worthy of exploration? On this program, you'll hear from Charles Murray himself as he tells you what he encountered. You'll hear who is behind this intimidation, and you may even hear how to resolve the problem. So let's meet our guests in the studio. First, on my left is Neil Foote. He's a veteran journalist and media executive. He had experience at the Miami Herald, the Washington Post, Belo Corporation, Tom Joyner's Reach Media. I'm not familiar with that, but it sounds good, Neil. Teaches digital and social media for journalists, media management, media entrepreneurship, and business journalism at the University of North Texas, Frank W. and Sue Mayburn School of Journalism, and he runs his own company, Foote Communications. So welcome to the program, Neil.
Thank you.
Sitting next to you is Nancy Hamilton. She's a partner at the law firm, the Dallas law firm of Jackson Walker LLP. And I understand you're a trustee of Skidmore College. Is that true?
Yes, I am.
Is that where you graduated?
It's my alma mater.
I suspected that. So give me an example of where Skidmore is for those who don't know.
Skidmore is a small liberal arts college, about 2,500 students in upstate New York.
Upstate New York,
Saratoga
okay.
Springs, New York.
So not too far from Middlebury
Correct.
College. I'm going to play for both of you and for that viewer part of the interview I did when Charles Murray was in town for the Institute for Policy Innovation last month, and I asked him to tell us what had happened to him, and I think I may have mentioned something about George Will in this, but he tells us what happened at Middlebury College and at the University of Michigan. So when we're ready, let's run video number 7.
George Will has said a couple of years ago that what we are seeing now is an attack on the desirability of free speech. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, it has a totalitarian undertone to it, so that it is wrong to say things which go against what we have decided is right. It is impermissible, and they see that as a kind of moral principle, I think.
Tell that viewer what happened to you at Middlebury College in March of 2017.
Big surprise. Well, the first part of it was that I was shouted down when I tried to give the lecture. I stood up there for 25 minutes and was obvious they were not going to stop chanting. And so then I went to another room with Allison Stanger, a professor there, who was going to do the Q&A, and we streamed a version of the lecture with a lot of difficulty since fire alarms are going off and people are yelling and screaming. And the dramatic part came when we tried to leave the building, and there were outside the guys in ski masks and the Antifa kind of group and others who assaulted us as we tried to go to the car. And when I say assault, I don't mean verbal. Allison Stanger sustained a concussion. She sustained a neck injury that has still not healed, and we're talking 8 months later. It was, it's odd, Dennis. What happened in trying to get to the car, that was a crime. And somebody ought to be doing jail time for what they did to Allison Stanger. In a way, the worst offense was in the lecture hall when I couldn't give an ordinary college-style lecture on the premises of one of the elite small colleges in the country. That was the real That was the sad part of the day.
Now they say they have punished, sanctioned, I think is the word they use, 67 students. How do you feel about that?
They didn't sanction them. They said, and it wasn't even a slap on the wrist. They were put on probation, all but a few, which if you don't do it again within the term, goes away completely. And then they put a permanent mark on the record of 6 students. Oh boy, that's really going to keep them from getting a job 4 or 5 years from now. We don't care about your Yale Law degree. We don't care about your Harvard MBA. You got a mark on your record in Middlebury when you were a junior. It's ridiculous. Until college administrators just simply start expelling students, or at least suspending them for doing this kind of thing. Why should I stop if I want to protest?
There is a situation that happened to you last week in Michigan. Tell us about that.
Well, it was kind of a mini Middlebury in the sense that for the first half hour, 35 minutes, you had chanting, you had people surreptitiously playing loud music so people couldn't hear me, you had stuff being projected onto the walls, and then at that point they marched out, and there were about 100 people left who'd come there to hear the lecture, and I was able to give it. Another difference between Middlebury and Michigan is I had, 20, 30, 40 campus police who were charged with making sure I didn't get hurt. That's pretty sad too.
Well, the idea, Neil, that he had 20 or 30 or 40 campus police at Michigan, I mean, what do you make of something like this?
Well, violence is not good, first of all. So having students react in a very violent way to cause physical harm to certainly one of the professors there is bad behavior, period.
That's called criminal in my mind. What do you
It's called
think?
criminal, right? The ability for these students to express their displeasure at someone's point of view is okay.
Right.
Correct? So the difficulty is this line here that Mr. Murray is saying that should these students be punished for their criminal acts of violence and potential injury to someone? Well, of course, if in fact the charges were pressed against them. Should they be charged for expressing their opinion about how they feel personally about his points of view? And as I teach my students in many of my classes, and particularly in the School of Journalism, is that our job is to pose the questions from all sides, right, left, middle, center, whatever way that is, to gather the information and report that back. Whether you agree with that or not, that those personal biases we come with us, because we're all individuals, we're all human. I was just telling my students today, we were talking about media law and ethics, and I said, we're all human, and sometimes people don't think we're human as well. The critical difference between us as journalists and everyone else is following and living through the process of doing all the due diligence of good reporters, which is asking good questions, probing deep for good answers, and probing even deeper to find the documents that support some of those documents.
Do you teach your students to go and yell and play loud music and shut speakers down? Would that be a popular
That's in my
approach?
101 class. No. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
So you would disagree with the students at Middlebury doing
Well,
that? Or
I
no?
would not. Certainly, I don't teach that behavior. Right? I don't teach. In my Principles of News class, I teach the values of the First Amendment and the power by which the Constitution has given us as journalists, as loosely as it was to do our jobs. That does not include shouting down speakers, shouting down people we disagree with.
But standing outside in a peaceful protest is fine. Having signs, as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not interrupting anything, no problem with that.
No problem with that at all.
That's all about freedom of speech
That's
for
freedom
us.
of speech, and
Everybody.
certainly interviewing those people like Charles Murray, even at a campus newspaper.